Hello everyone, welcome to the DraftCast, the place to get all your news about the draft events of the week. I'm your host, Luke Headley. This week we have Tolly Oram on from the Roasting Whipnuts. We'll do our league table review for game week 17. We'll do a review of Tolly's team and we'll try and do a team and player of the week predictions. We've also got Tolly's segment at the end to cover and we'll get to that at the end. So, how are you doing, Tolly?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me on.
No, of course, we've got to get through everybody. How are you feeling? Are you looking forward to doing your segment at the end?
I'm very looking forward to it. I think it's gonna appeal to some people, maybe appeal less so to others, but it should be a fun one.
Good, that's what we like, a bit of fun. We'll start with the league table. I think it's worth starting with Lawrence's 77 top score of the week. Good score. He's jumped the three of us that were at the top to go first, and he's got a little bit of a gap actually, so he's done well.
Yeah, obviously a very good week, and like you say, went from fourth to first, which is no mean feat, and three different players all hit double figures, which is always helpful.
Yeah.
He's not like me saying this, but he was a bit fortunate in that he had Smith Rowe come in, for example, who he had on his bench, and I think the Burnley game getting called off brought him in. But I think, if you have a team with Son, Ings and Rashford, that's a pretty solid core to push on with. Obviously, it's well known that it still begs belief for me that he still has Jimenez. And over the past few weeks, he's missed out on some players like Ashley Barnes, Haller and Benteke. None of whom are like going to set the world on fire, but for me, 2 points is better than none. He's top of the league, so he's laughing at me right now. So.
Yeah, I mean, like I said last time, he's hopeful that he's going to come back, and I guess everybody's got their opinion on whether that'll happen or not, but we'll have to wait and see.
Charlotte's got her medical opinion.
Yeah. So Jack had the lowest score of the week, but he's maintained second position. Me and Jim are catching him up. We're only a few points behind him now. So it's good little contest going on all over the league table, really. I mean, Adam had a good week as well at the bottom with 54. Just catching Tom up again.
Yeah, Will overtook me. I think Will picking up Kane has helped his situation no end. I think Jack's hit a tough bit of form. Same time as my team, actually. I think we were both doing pretty well at the similar times, and then the last 2 or 3 weeks for both of us have been pretty annoying. It was only a couple of game weeks ago that I was maybe 10 to 20 points behind Lawrence, maybe more like 20, I'd have thought. And now he's flown up the league, so to show what a couple of good weeks can do for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, we'll have to see if he can maintain that form going forward, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, not much else to report, I don't think, from the week. That's the sort of main things that went on.
Looking across it, a lot of people got like the 40s, so definitely me and Jack were the underperformers. And next, we'll get on to next game week again in a bit, but that's going to be a car crash for me and probably everyone.
Yeah, for
but
a lot
that double
of people,
game week after is where I'm looking to hopefully gain some ground that I've lost next week and in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. Okay, then we'll take a look at your team. Although you didn't have a great week, Loris and Martial kept you up.
Yeah, Lloris has been a good one actually. He's kept me a lot of points, and he was probably the part I was least keen about. So I've done 2 trades, and one of them was Alisson, Wilson, and Jota for Lloris, Greenwood, and Rodrigo. And Lloris was at that point. Lloris was like, I was kind of ambivalent about it. Yeah. He's been really solid. I think he's conceded the least in the league. So that's been a nice surprise. Like I said, it was a another standard underperformance from the Whipnuts, kind of similar to the week before. That said, I lost about 18 points, or maybe even 20, in the last minute across a couple of games, because Cancelo, Justin, and Castagna all lost their clean sheets at the last minute,
really?
Including bonus points. So I mean, if I had an extra 18, I'd have been a much better week. People like Trent, he started to look a bit like a budget Matty Cash, which isn't good for me. He was kind of my star pick.
Yeah, I mean, one of my questions was going to be about Trent. So what do you say to the abuse that he's been getting in the group chat recently?
It's fair, but I've got to keep him. I think what he can do with his assists and sometimes goals is just like, I think you can't really compare it to many other defenders. He's like I say, he's been in a very rough patch right now. And I think I think it doesn't help that they haven't got any. Last game they had Henderson and Fabinho centre back, which doesn't fill you with confidence. But if they were able to get Matip back and then maybe buy another one, I think they'll be more likely to get some more clean sheets as well. It was, like I say, a surprise for them to lose 1-0 against Southampton.
Yeah, good result.
I'll
I'm happy with that.
I'll definitely keep him. Another one which was annoying was Calvert-Lewin. I think this is the first time he's consecutively blanked. Like every other week, he's at least, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks blank now. But out of 17, he usually gets at least an assist or a goal. And a couple of times he's scored a few. So that's a bit annoying. But at the same time, it's good to see Martial pick up a bit of form. He's been really poor. And then the last 3, 4, 5 weeks, he's finally started to do something.
Yeah.
I can only hope that Greenwood starts to follow suit, but that's more hopeful, I think.
Yeah. So looking at game week 18 then, how many players have you got playing?
I think it's, let me just check. I think it's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, 7. That's good. 7. One of them is Pedence, who might be injured. One of them is Greenwood, who might never play again.
Yeah.
I do have both keepers playing, which is nice, but I can't play them both. And also 2 of them are City players, Mahrez and Cancelo. So I'm really only confident that De Gea, Martial, and Calvert-Lewin will start.
Yeah. Well, they've got Man City have got Brighton, haven't they? So
if Cancelo and Mahrez do start, I could see them picking up some points.
Yeah. Are you going to make any swaps to help with the loss of players, or are you just going to bear the brunt?
I'm thinking about it. To be honest, everyone who's not playing this week has a double game week, but kind of by nature, the following one. So
yeah.
I'm not going to make any panic ones. I'm going to keep all my Leeds players. I'll keep Matip for now. Obviously Trent. So probably won't, but maybe. I'm thinking about it. Like I say, kind of have to weigh off against getting one extra game week versus getting a double the following.
Yeah. Okay.
Overall, if a more holistic view of the league in terms of in the past 4 or 5 weeks, I'd definitely say I'm most impressed with, and I hate to say this, but George Keeney and his Ajax down trees.
Yeah.
So earlier on, he was cut adrift. Personally, I felt embarrassed to put him into the league. Not only is he a West Ham fan with a reputation for getting paralytic on Bulmers, but he's kind of cut adrift with a sorry-looking team. And obviously, he took a fair bit of instinct for having 5 Arsenal players when Arsenal looked like they were going to go down, if you believe what Sam Allardyce says. But what I would say to him, and to everyone, but to him, is that he has one thing that a lot of managers don't have, and by a lot of managers, I mean James, and that's loyalty. So, obviously, George stuck with his Arsenal players, and that's actually paid him quite a big dividend now.
Yeah.
Especially the last 2 game weeks. People like Lacazette. He has Holding for some reason. He got some points, so I think he had him on his bench. And obviously, James is infamously threw away Sterling because he blanked 1 week. And now he's been consistently assisting and scoring since then. And for that trade, he got in Foden. He didn't start a couple of games, so he took him out for, I think, Havertz, and now Foden's assisting and scoring last week. He also got rid of Doherty because he didn't play a few games for PVA, and now PVA's not even playing. So it's interesting because it's kind of swings and roundabouts. It's hard to predict who's going to come back and who's not. But
yeah,
George stuck by his Arsenal contingent. I think he was getting some very bait offers for people like Willian, Lacazette, Aubameyang, and Barnard just kind of seeing him through, and now he's right amongst it. Also, I'd say shout out to Rich, because that team on paper, when I look at it, it doesn't fill me with any confidence. But he every week seems to get the points. So
yeah, he's not this week's not been that good, but yeah, like you say, a few weeks before he's been up there scoring, relatively highly consistently. So yeah,
exactly. And you look at especially the back line, you're kind of wondering, or even the front line, Giroud, Wood, and Cavani is a bit rogue, I would say, but gets the points. And he had Jota as well, who I got rid of, and Jota when he went to Liverpool has been pretty good. So yeah, shout out. Otherwise, I think other teams are doing as I would expect. Like Jack's got Salah and Sterling, Lawrence has got Rashford and Son, Will's now got Fernandes and Kane.
Yeah.
These are kind of players, as we know from last season and the season before, kind of the star players who you expect to consistently sort you out.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's a good segue then. So who do you think team-wise is going to top the score again, or top score next week?
It's hard to know because I haven't looked across all the teams to see how many people are playing, but I do know the best games of the game week are probably City, Spurs, I hate to say that, Villa, but Spurs and Man United. And of those, I think probably Man United's the best because you know with more confidence who's going to play. So for me, for the best team, I think it's between Will and Lawrence, and that's mainly because it's between Kane and Fernandes versus Son and Rashford.
Yeah.
So Villa usually keep it tight, so it'd be interesting to see. And Spurs under Mourinho don't always. I mean, at the start of the season they were scoring loads, but they've been the less of that now. So I mean, if Villa can keep a tight shop, I think Will's got a good chance because Fernandes against Burnley just screams like points to me.
Yeah.
But those are the two. That said, Tom has KDB and Jack has Sterling, and I think City against Brighton could also massively help someone. Like with a lot of players, a lot of our teams have 4 or 5 players, so one player doing really well, I think, can get you the best week.
Could do, yeah.
Week, I think.
Although KDB hasn't, he's not meeting his form that he had from prior seasons, has he? So
it'd be interesting to see. Week, didn't he? Yeah. Like I say, for myself, I've only got about 5, so if I was to come top, I'd really need that pod luck to kick in.
Well, you'll have to hope that it comes for you.
Yeah, exactly. But that said, the one I'm most concerned about looking at next week is probably Adam. I think losing Kane will be a blow next week and every week from now on. So,
yeah.
And now he's bottom as well. So, that said, everyone wrote George.
Well, he had to try and do something probably.
Yeah.
To get away from bottom. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
I was
going to say Lawrence again, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like you say, the Spurs game, the Man U game. But then I was going to say Mahrez might score. If he plays, he could get you he could be the player of the week. Because he does that every now and again, doesn't he? He just comes on and scores a lot of points for fun.
Absolutely. Looking at his scores, I think he was on about 60 points, but he got 21 in one game week and maybe 8 in another.
But it's the same as it was the same as last season. He just sort of would, go do nothing for a few weeks and then come on and score, in the teens and then go away again. So
a bit of a Marmite kind of player on fantasy. Like he either doesn't do anything or does a lot. And usually you'll put him on your bench for the time he does a lot, and really annoying.
So who do you think will get top score this week?
Top player, I like the look of Sterling against Dan Burn. That just seems like a mismatch of all mismatches. So I think Sterling could, I don't know why he wouldn't start, but if he starts, I think that could be one. Likewise, I think if KDB starts again, don't know why he wouldn't, but if KDB starts, I think that could be another double figure week. So even though those two aren't in my kind of best teams of the week, I think those two could be up there. Like I say, Villa kind of keep a tight ship usually, and United they're kind of hit and miss. But I think Fernandes probably would be up there as well. I think he usually gets double figures most weeks, it seems, especially when he's away from home. So, one of those 3, I'd say.
Okay.
And I don't think anyone has them, but I think Sheffield and Newcastle has all the hallmarks of like a massive bore fest. So I think anyone with those players probably aren't going to do that well. Famous last words.
Yeah. We'll have to see. I mean, how many games have we got? 6 games. That's not a lot, is it? Okay. Well, so we'll move on to your segment then.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
You introduce it, because I don't know anything about it.
Cool, okay. Well, I'd like to say first, I liked Lawrence's section last week. That was good. And I was surprised to see that I was actually positive in my transfer changes, given that I give away both Wilson and Jota, who both then did really well in their post-Whitnup life. I was surprised to see I'd been positive. I imagine that was because of my free agents. Anyway, so my section for this week, and I'm going to talk you through it, is called the Whipnut Roast, as you can see. And it's dedicated. It's football related, but not directly draft related. So you have to bear with. But it's dedicated to analysing one of England's greatest ever players, and also simultaneously proving the haters wrong.
Okay.
So across about 8 or 9 players, I forget. We'll find out in a minute. I'm going to compare the GOAT, which of course is Super Jack Grealish, against other players in the Premier League this season. And also, I think that will be helpful in terms of seeing where that puts him in terms of value, because I think you mentioned Lawrence last week. Heading into the January transfer window, and there's a lot of there's a bit of speculation about Jack Grealish. So,
okay, I didn't know that. So
his value. Well, mainly Man United are sniffing around him apparently.
Right.
As they always are. So let me see if I can do this. Cool. Okay. So the first player we're going to compare Jack Grealish with, it seems natural, is the most expensive midfielder ever to play the football game, and that is Paul Pogba. So literally ever the most expensive midfielder. And as you'll see, I've gone onto the the Premier League website, and I've compared it. And where the figures are red, that means superior figures.
Okay.
So
pretty much all of them then.
Thank you, Luke. I'm glad you mentioned that. So, given that Pogba costs 90 million, if you were to compare his stats against Grealish, he's got 1 goal versus 5 and 0 assists versus 7. So I think that would put Jack Grealish in the 300 to 400 million ballpark range. I think that's a reasonable price based on these stats. I mean, the ones that really surprised me are kind of the creativity and team play stats for Pogba. He doesn't seem to be creating any chances. Doesn't really be doing an awful lot in terms of creativity. I mean, obviously Jack Grealish also plays more forward, but you'd have thought someone like Paul Pogba, who's known for, I would say, being quite a creative midfielder, that surprised me. Like you say, pretty much every stat is in favour of Jack Grealish there.
Yeah.
And I think that's also worth bearing in mind, actually, thinking about the last game that Villa had against United. So I did a bit of stats on this, and this is for Richard and Bear, who I know United fans. So United fielded a team which was worth $500 million against Villa. So De Gea's 19 million, Wan-Bissaka 45, Bailly 30, Maguire 80, Shaw 30, Fred 50, Fernandes 50, Pogba 90, Martial 45. Then off the bench they brought Matic, who cost 40, and Dan James for 15. So I thought that's quite interesting context to the recent discussions in the chat and more widely about United's on a title charge, are they overperforming? I think it just goes to show how much they've underperformed. Like, you have a team worth that much and you spent that much, and then people are, Pogba had a really good game against Villa, which he did. But it's like, well, you'd hope he has a good game every once in a while because he cost you 90 million. So I thought that was a good one to start with.
Once in a while, it should be every game, shouldn't it, that he plays?
Exactly. Well, exactly. You make a very good point. But I thought it was one good one to start with. We just played Man United, and it's not a strict like for like comparison, but I thought it was quite an interesting one. Okay, the second one. Oh, and I was going to talk about who owns who, because obviously Team Row has Pogba at the moment, and obviously it's Adam's team who has Jack. So I'll talk about who has who player, just to keep it draft relevant as well.
Yeah.
So the second one, I've just compared Grealish to a centre midfielder. Now I'm going to compare him to a record signing star striker in the £45 million worth of striker that is Sebastian Haller.
I feel like this one's very targeted.
And actually, you might be surprised. I don't know if you noticed, but it was the Nudes who picked up Haller in the most recent game weeks. I think it was brought him in for Fabio Silva. So it's really hard to know what to draw a comparison here with, because Grealish is literally better across every single attacking and team play statistic, even though he's played a game less. One which I think is quite interesting is the shooting accuracy. So Haller literally has one shot off target for every single one he has on target. I think 50% shot accuracy for a striker, you'd be hoping for better. Someone who costs you that much money, you'd be hoping for better. Yeah. But Haller has created one big chance, which was the same as Paul Pogba. So, Haller is on the same level as a £90 million midfielder in terms of his creativity. So that's one in his favour. But, that one, you're right. It is quite targeted. But I think Haller has actually started the last 4 or 5 game weeks, so you'd have thought he might have done a bit better. He only seems to score outrageous screamers. And I think David Moyes was like, I wish he scored to tap him. So he could take some notes from Jack Grealish's book. That's all I'm saying. I don't know if you found that one surprising. I imagine not.
Well, I don't track enough of players from all teams to know, who should, I don't know. I definitely don't know who gets signed for how much money. So I don't know what the expectation is on each, from the actual supporters for that team, if you like. So,
but what I think this does show in terms of the money, and I've got this on the next slide, is maybe they'd be better putting it in their training ground, because Villa, obviously, Grealish came from our academy, as of a few good players, whereas West Ham have like a supply teacher's car park kind of weird box thing as their academy. So maybe they could spend 45 million on that and they'll get their own Grealish next time. That was just a slight dig. And also,
small. But
that was subtle, wasn't it? That was subtle.
Does it not depend on like how long you've been in the Premier League as to how much money you'd have to spend on that sort of stuff?
True, and it's good to bring up. it's good to bring up that actually that West Ham have been relegated before Villa were. But I think there must be similarly in terms of the number of seasons they've been in the Prem, though. I reckon.
Oh, okay.
Because Villa, I think West Ham only missed a few, and same with Villa. And obviously, I can't mention Haller without mentioning the bet that George made me at the start of the season that he would outscore Ollie Watkins. Just a quick slide to say that's clearly not going to happen. Ollie Watkins has played
that's I mean,
game less.
Okay, yeah, I mean the
goals.
stats aren't looking in George's favour, but it's bold to say that it is not going to happen. I mean, we're only halfway through. There's a long way to go.
You've got to back yourself. I think Haller's minutes are numbered with Antonio coming back, and I think Watkins should have been scoring much more than he did. So I'm confident, but fair enough. It's not. Maybe it's not closed yet, but I think I'm feeling confident. Yeah, as strikers go, I think Watkins clearly is just a bit better overall. Well, more than a bit better. You can see just on other stats, he does more assists, more chances, more shots, way more shots on target. Anyway, that was a bit of a segue, but the one that didn't include Grealish. The next comparison, as we all know, Southgate faces a really big dilemma. Who does he start? Is it Grealish or is it Mason Mount? Chelsea's best midfielder since Frank Lampard, owned by Team Rowe. As we can see, Mount has 1 goal to Grealish's 5. He has 3 assists to Grealish's 7. And in fact, Grealish is superior across every single attacking stat. Although it is really well known that Southgate prefers his wingers to be better at defending than attacking. Looking at team play stats, it's actually a bit more level, but I think part of this comes from the fact that Mount has played an extra game. But in terms of some important stats, he's got more assists, double the amount of big chances created. And one which I think is good to draw out is the passes forward and backwards. So Mount roughly passes the same amount forward as backwards, 1 for 1, give or take. Whereas Grealish is 2 forward for every 1 back, which strikes me as a more kind of attacking player, a more kind of forward and positive player. So again, I think that's a pretty conclusive one. And maybe that's not super surprising, given that the way Grealish plays compares to Mount. But I think the stats really outline it in a very transparent way.
Does the team, does the position that Mount plays in Chelsea have an impact on these stats? The way that Lampard wants him to play might not be the same as, Grealish is being told to play.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But then again, looking at, there's 2 things I'll say to that. One is that Grealish has been playing a more similar role to Mount in the last few games, because Villa have gone with 2 wingers recently. Not 2 wingers which aren't Grealish, so Al-Ghazi and Traore, which has put Grealish in a more central role, which I think is more comparable to Mount. And also, looking at the stats, I mean, Mount has had 30 shots compared to Jack Grealish's 40, so Mount clearly does get forward, he just doesn't score.
Yeah, I suppose that's fair.
So, but you're right, I think, it is difficult to compare, but I think Grealish has been playing a more comparable role recently.
I suppose that minutes per goal is a stark contrast, isn't it?
I haven't even noticed that one until you put it out. That is, 1,000 extra minutes for Mason Mount pretty much per goal.
Yeah.
To be fair, once he gets 1 extra goal, whenever that is, that will come down by half. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's quite a nice one. I like looking at that one. And then speaking of defensive forwards, you have to always mention the defensive forward, because Southgate famously talked about how Mount is better at defending off the ball. So you have to compare Grealish to one of the prime defensive forwards of our era. So that's the Champions League, the champions of the Premier League, star defensive striker owned by Ajax Downtrees. But you won't be surprised. I know that winds him up, so I'm going to keep saying that.
Right, I see.
So you won't be surprised to see that Grealish, I guess maybe you would be, but he has more assists. And he also has as many goals as Firmino. I think Firmino has actually scored more than I thought he would have by this point. He doesn't always score that many.
No, he's had a few recently, hasn't he? I think that's surprised.
Exactly. He's picked up a little bit, which has worked out for George again. Another one he's been faithful with. Interestingly, the team play stats are much better for Jack Grealish across the board, pretty much. The only one that is bettered for Firmino is passes backwards, which I wouldn't really say is that great. But I also thought I'd bring out the defending stats, because we know that Firmino is a defensive forward.
Yeah.
And Jack Grealish is better across those as well. But like I say, in reality, that's probably driven by the position. But again, comparing him to a striker, he looks pretty good. So I think this is looking pretty rosy for Adam right now. I don't know if any of these have surprised you, but I think the last two might surprise you.
Okay.
We'll see. But
I mean, I sense the theme going, so I'm not really surprised. But what does I think what you are highlighting here is you're showing that the bottom place of our league has supposedly one of the best players in the Premier League, but it's not enough to carry you through. So
yes, exactly. Although, and I think Will also showed that because he was bottom for a while with Fernandes, but he's now picked up Kane. And I think having the two together is a good combo. But you're right. I think and also Thomas struggled even though he has Kevin De Bruyne. So I think it does show that even if you have one star player, it's not usually enough. You need to have at least another star player in the case of Jack with Salah and Sterling, or just a bit more kind of spread across the team.
Yeah. Who's next then?
Who's next? The next one is Coventry's finest.
Now this is targeted.
And that is obviously James Maddison, who used to play with Coventry. He's from Coventry, apparently parks his really nice car in the local estates. So Maddison's owned by Pesky. And again, one that sometimes is compared to Grealish in terms of who should Southgate call up. Maddison sometimes plays, I think he does play a more advanced role in this kind of attacking midfielder role. Again, it's not dissimilar to what Grealish plays at the moment. Looking at the stats, so Grealish is, clearly superior across most of the attacking ones. He has more goals and assists. Team play is a bit more balanced. Yeah. Again, Grealish has almost double the number of forward passes. Maddison's also created one big chance. That's the same as Paul Pogba and Sebastian Haller. So comparison there.
Yeah.
But Leicester are high flying. So you might have expected Maddison to at least beat better than Grealish on some of those. But maybe the second half of the season they'll do better.
Yeah, it'd be interesting if people want to see it. Next time you're on, if it's towards the end of the season, you can get a refresh on these stats. We'll see who eats their words.
Do me over. But yeah, that I fear to live by these words, but I'll do it. I'm happy to back my man. Next one is England's top prospect, Phil Foden. I'll do a quick one here. I forget who owns Phil Foden. It must be Adam. Again, I think it's fair to say Phil Foden's played less minutes. But he just isn't as good in terms of his end product. But he's played 4 less games. So again, it's the chances created that surprised me here and the assists. But I expect once he's played a couple more games, he might be in it. But it's not solely down to the games in hand because Villa and City, I think, have played almost comparable games. It's the fact he just doesn't play for them sometimes.
Yeah, I think that's why Jim got rid of him, wasn't he? He just wasn't playing enough.
Because the last one, I think this is the one that might surprise you. Again, you might have sensed a theme here that Grealish is better than these players, generally, across the stats at least. And the stats sometimes emphatically so. But the last one I found particularly surprising. So I compared Grealish to England's literal best winger. So against Raheem Sterling, who they've played a more comparable number of games, 14 to 15, and I think Sterling plays a majority of those games in terms of minutes. This one surprised me because I would have thought Sterling would have smashed him hands down. City usually are free scoring, create a lot of chances, score a lot of goals, and Raheem Sterling's usually central to that with Kevin De Bruyne. Obviously, Sterling owned by the Nudes after James gave him away for the equivalent of 50p and a Twix. But what you can see here is that Grealish scored more goals, more than double the assists. He's better across most attacking stats, and he's also created double the number of big chances. I don't know if you can see it here. Oh, I don't think it's come up because I've cropped it out. But he also is. He's done 7 times the number of crosses as Sterling, which I think is down to the City style of play.
Yeah.
But if I was Southgate and I was thinking I'm going to have Kane as my centre forward, and I want to have someone I know can whip a ball in.
Yeah.
City and Sterling don't really do that.
Yeah, because he sort of cuts in most times, doesn't he? I would say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, or plays a short pass. They don't tend to do the down the wing and cross it in kind of thing. But that was the one that surprised me. So I went through quite a few players who I knew Grealish would be better than, like Haller and Pogba, and Foden probably. But this was the one that surprised me. That when I looked at it, it was pretty much pink across the board for Grealish. And this is relevant when Southgate, is comparing these players, and he's like, "Oh, Grealish is up against the best wingers in the world in terms of who he's up against for England." Well, I think he kind of holds his ground, at least on the form of the first half of the season.
Yeah, I mean that's the way the stats look, isn't it? I don't know. I doubt Southgate looks at the stats like the same way, does
and
he?
as Adam says, the stats don't lie. So...
No, they don't. But there must be other factors as to why Southgate doesn't pick him every time.
Yes.
His time will come. His time will come, okay?
Exactly. And sooner the better. Win the Euros as captain, preferably. But I can just only imagine how much Jack has cringed during that section, and I'm embracing it.
I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm sure he'll see the light-hearted side of it, but it is interesting. It is interesting because, you know, some of the bigger names that you've put there, you would expect to do much better than they potentially have done so far this season. So,
yeah,
we'll see what happens in the next half of the season and whether those stats are still one-sided or if, some of the other teams, the players do pick up their game and come back. But
exactly.
You're right. It does give Southgate a lot to think about. But
even if you compare him to central players, he does better across stats. Compare him to forward players, he does better across stats. And like I say, with Villa playing him a more central role at the moment, food for thought. But that was the end of my TED talk. So thank you for bearing with.
Nice, I like it. So next game week is on Tuesday, the 12th of Jan. Yeah. Is there an international break now?
It's FA Cup.
Oh, okay.
Which is unfortunate for players like Doherty who got sent off, and Cavani who are getting suspended, because actually I think they're not even missing any Prem games.
Oh, so do those games count as part of the ones they get suspended from? I see.
Right. Yeah, so next week, like I say, I'm not feeling particularly confident, but I'd love a bit of pod luck.
Well, there's history there of people coming on and doing well. I mean, like we've already discussed, it's a small game week, not many teams playing, so it could take only one or two players to, for a team to score well. But I mean, if we have similar scores to this week, again, I'll be shocked.
Yeah. I might get a similar score, 20 something?
I mean, that's going to probably be where our high scores lies, the high 20s. But I'd have said 40 points is a good score.
No, 100%.
Yeah, okay. So, but thanks for coming on, Tolly.
Well, thanks for having me, and also thank you for putting this together, Luke. You're really professional. It's really good, and it's really good.
It's been fun to do, and I'm still enjoying it every time. Trying to do new bits every time, and trying to learn a new skill, I guess. But I'm enjoying it. Good. So thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next time. See what happens with the next game week, because it's a small one. And this is the DraftCast, and remember, draft is life. See you next time. Bye.